Okay, so we're I don't know how many days. Less than 10 days from D-Day. Less than 10 days from D-Day. Why is it called D-Day? Because we are going to be entering into some aggressive outcomes. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm from California, okay? I know what I was raised with. I knew what I grew up with. I knew what habits and culture I adopted from California. It was all about looking hot and looking sexual, being, was it gluten-free, sugar-free, and aspartame-free, right? Being, what is it? Always eating salads and staying away from meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and fruits and vegetables, and having a tight belly and thin thighs and big boobs and all that. So I came from that culture of malnutrition, deficiency. And so I came here to Ohio. It's so different. Yeah, that's the same thing, but those are the girls that were married off and maybe went to college and married off to have a billion babies and or be a barfly and marry whatever. And that's okay. That is whatever it is. That's the same thing in California too. But some of the women here are built like brick shit houses. Like literally built like brick shit houses. Fight like men, eat like men, do shit like men. And there was no way I could compete with that. No freaking way. And there are men yes, are men out here. They eat the meat, the milk, the cheese, the eggs. They hardly felt, if they felt something the last 3 or 4 years, it was minor. It was a cold. It was maybe a diagnosable condition that they already expected. It was maybe it died suddenly because their time came up. Maybe it was a cancer diagnosis that people already expected. But, man, I have been feeling so flippin' sick the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, however many years. And oh my God, I'm like, and I look at people in California, they're like me, right? Maybe they have a diagnosable condition, maybe they don't. Maybe they've buried people already and they already expected to. Maybe their nieces and nephews already came down with a diagnosable condition. And so it's like, but they're not like changing their lifestyle. They're not going like, oh gosh. They're looking at me like, oh, Jillian's unhealthy. Jillian is sick. She's, this and that. And oh my gosh. And so I'm watching people the last 3 years. And I watch people like, they're traveling. They're going off different places. They're doing all these different things. Why aren't they sick? And so I figured out, I've speculated. I can't prove a damn thing. Okay, this is just speculation. This is just theory. I can't prove it. It's not set in stone. There's no way to know anything. But this is my theory about what goes on here in the Midwest and what goes on over there, and especially in California, and in New York and the coast, right? Is that, the Midwest, with the whole thing with April 8th, we're getting a lot more, I would say, infrasound than those in California. Because can you imagine? Like, I'm a representation of California, and I'm subject to all this different climate change over here, infrasound, whatever you want to call it. And I'm coming down left and right with every single flipping disease you can think of. Sick as a fucking dog. While people in California are like, I don't know what the hell she's dealing with. But yeah, we have a little bit of heat. We have a little bit of storms. No big deal. And people around me don't even know what the fuck's, they're like, what's wrong with you? You have issues. Why are you staying home and staying safe? Why are you wearing a mask? And so I'm juxtapositioning myself against my husband, who's been raised out here, and I'm raised in California with a California attitude. Not anymore, though. And then I'm married to a husband who is Appalachian, meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and all that stuff, who had a very different upbringing, very different lifestyle. And I'm thinking, you know what? We're subject to the same infrasound, climate change frequencies, but he had, yes, a few things that no big deal. Whether he thought he had a heart attack, but he wasn't. It was like a lot of heartburn, a lot of acid buildup, and it caused him to faint. Like back in 2020, he hasn't had that situation since. He pulled through it. He survived it. He could have been one of those that died suddenly back then. And he would be sick for about a week, no different than someone sick with a cold. But he's hardly ever gotten sick before. I mean, he has never gotten sick. When I was sick in the beginning of the pandemic, he was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. He couldn't understand why I kept getting hives and having all the respiratory stuff. And he was just perfectly fine. Maybe some of his friends came down with shit, but for the most part, people around him were perfectly fine. It was just a cold to them or flu. And here I am just like barely can move, barely can do this. Maybe he felt that way too one time. And that's when people get diagnosed with COVID. But right now, he hardly feels a damn thing. I've been feeling shit the last few weeks. This last month, I've been sick. I finally pulled through. And he hasn't felt a damn thing. And I'm just like, God damn. Yeah. So I'm representation of someone in California under these type of aggressive climate change over here. He's like completely like assimilated to it, though April 8th coming up quick, and I'm like, oh jeez. Shouldn't people in California be a little bit scared? But no, they're not. Nobody in California, nobody in these Western states have even a clue. They're probably subject to climate change on some level, but not the other part of it. There's probably two parts to this, and I'm going to speculate. Yes, there is the aggressive frequency in storms. Okay, but yes, there's that climate change, but then there is that infrasound that is so undetectable, and only certain people get affected by it and then go into anaphylaxis. And so then people are like, oh, well, yeah, I expect a person to die. Oh, well, yeah, I expect a person to be diagnosed with cancer. It's in my genetic line. So people expect it. Or they're like, oh, it's the V's. You got V. They're claiming the VACCINESs. And so even people in California are like, yeah, and so they may be more robust than their friends and family, but they don't realize, I mean, maybe they do. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to figure out all this stuff. And so I'm thinking that April 8th is going to be the moment of truth. And so I'm just going to go down my timeline here because holy crap, I'm just like, oh my Lord. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So I'm thinking April 8th is going to be like a tsunamic infranado. There was a conditioning of slight changes, slight pulses, and infrasound type of stuff that would happen. And I don't know how strategically they plan it, when around the storms, around certain, who knows. But I know I've been feeling stuff. So a lot of people have been feeling stuff on the weekends, Friday, Saturday. Now it's like almost every other day. You feel great one day and all of a sudden another frequency comes through and changes things. Like, fuck, okay. So I think April 8th is going to be like a tsunamic infranado. What's a tsunamic infranado? Well, tsunamis are wave action that builds up pressure based upon the gravity and the acceleration. And when there's nothing stopping it, right? What's in motion stays in motion and builds up speed. What's at rest stays at rest. So you can only imagine wave action through tsunamis, how deadly they were, of course, in Thailand and other places, Japan, and any other place that's on the coast. And so tsunamis is like wave action. So there's tsunamic, and what's an infranado? Well, there's tornadoes. Now, tornadoes are actual swirling of air, unstable air that causes destruction, that it starts in the sky and then goes on the ground, and basically it's like, a battering ram. It goes through and pulverizes everything in its path. And so when you think about that, it's kind of like, infrasound and other stuff. It's like a tsunamic infranado. It's an undetectable low frequency tornado that you can't detect, but it's something that you feel. And there's barriers to it. You can actually find a way to barrier it, whether it's the military doing blocking type of situations or a person using household items like open celled foam to absorb the infrasound. So you might hear stuff, but you won't get the vibration causing then major instability in your body, especially if you are in deficit. So what I think is going to happen in April 8th, and again, it's all speculation. I can't prove a damn thing. It'll be a tsunamic infranado. And so what I said, the last thing I said today was if the system wanted to do a targeted approach, they would do something like a Lahaina, assuming that's true, that there's a DEW. We don't know. It could just been a fire that started off one place and it was a chain reaction. And so if I'm going to come from the standpoint of conspiracy, and again, it's not proven, and 50 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, everything can be deleted, and that's fine. Facebook, delete whatever I've said about that, or it'll be buried under years and years of internet. But if they were to do a Lahaina approach, then yeah, they're not going to do a Lahaina approach. But if they wanted to do a targeted approach, they would do something like a Lahaina approach to everyone in the path of the eclipse totality. The system is doing a holistic approach. Oh, what is a holistic approach? Knowing fully well the thick atmosphere from contrails, water vapor, laced with reflective silver particles, which is amplifying the sun, making the sun hotter. And then CERN, we hear CERN's being turned up. Particle acceleration, smashing atoms, speeding up stuff, right? And then the 3 rockets launched during the eclipse, so those 3 rockets are going to penetrate the ionosphere, cause then another aggressive rock thrown into the atmosphere pond of the world, the jet stream, all the water vapors and everything that we've already been experiencing, right? During the eclipse, will activate everyone in the winds of change. As the winds of change pass over your cities, states, etc. Even the military is holistic. Okay, we mean activate everyone. Activate your immune system. I mean, that's when you think about Rosicrucian and using ways to regulate people and immune systems. It's like a Passover approach. It's not just strictly Jewish. It's also Rosicrucian, which takes into account Christianity, Hermeticism, okay, Gnosticism, same thing as Christianity. And so everything is connected. The ionosphere is connected. The jet stream is connected to the everything is connected. It's not compartmentalized like it was maybe before. Things were compartmentalized. They were direct targeted, all that stuff. No, now it's a holistic approach where now you realize everything is connected. So when you have April 8th and everyone going out and look with their glasses, I mean, you see people just completely unaware of what I'm saying on Facebook, right? Completely unaware. They're like, oh, I'm just going to go out here wear my glasses and all. And they're reading this stuff, right? I don't even know if it's even registering, but they're like, oh, I'm just going to go out there and do that. I'm like, okay, have fun. Enjoy the show. What else can I say? And so they're going to be so many people out there celebrating, worshiping. It's like a mass sacrifice. Worshiping that situation. And so then you have those 3 rockets at 1 per hour penetrating the atmosphere, amplifying, causing that chain reaction of energy in the ionosphere. So it's getting things going up and moving, and CERN amplifying that, and the chemtrails and contrails, whatever, is then those atoms and things, those particles that are going to be affected, and it's going to vibrate and cause a chain reaction. And of course, you know that all of our society has different machines and things and towers and whatever that then will then start a chain reaction all over the globe. And yeah, I'm sure even Africa too. They'll have their own stuff, but Africans are super, super strong. I mean, here, yes, in Canton, Ohio, Africans here are so strong. And they have their own issues here too because of lifestyle, belief system, culture. And you know how America, the melting pot, we're all under experimentation. All cultures were brought here to see how we were going to assimilate and react to all the different experiments. But Africa, the huge continent of Africa, when you think about how huge that continent is, oh my God, it's bigger than you ever thought, bigger than I ever thought, given that we were taught Western ideals and Africa looked like it was smaller on the map. And then, U.S. and Asia and other places looked like it was larger. Africa's huge, huge. They have their own weak people and strong people. Okay, so Africa's going to go through their stuff, but Africans have really been already climatized to what's going on. It's the rest of the world that hasn't been climatized to African biophysically, to actual native Africa, strong Africans biophysically. And so it's like we're going to be, like what Klaus Schwab was saying, competing on a level playing field with infrasound frequencies, climates, and even intellectual capability. And that's what the internet's there for, as a base platform to not only argue ideas, but also learn about different cultures and everyone on the same page, reading the same type of stuff, history and religion and scientists, and coming from a science perspective versus religious. Though they're going to allow people to do their religious stuff over here, and that's fine. People will do stuff around their religion and take all their herbs and extracts and play those games of having big families, and then you see what happens when people have large families and all that. They start weakening the genetic line. So the system is not going to stop people from regulating themselves and regulating themselves out of existence. And then also on the other side of the world, give people the opportunity to stay alive and evolve if they can handle the pain and suffering of evolution. Okay? And so climate change is like a low frequency infrasound resulting in high blood pressure, low blood pressure, and you're observing some people in disease, and people are continuously treating their diseases. So back in the J world, when I was activating people's immune systems, and yeah, they had probably low blood pressure because they were like low blood pressure because they were on either medications or under, less sodium, was it low sodium diets and all that stuff. And so they didn't understand what immune system activation was. And of course, the frequencies were relatively stable. And so they didn't get any shocks unless it was around cold and flu season or spring allergy season. And then they would have those medications around to regulate someone's immune system. So the J juice was, yes, immune system activation. It woke up people's low blood pressure immune systems and, yes, raised their blood pressure. And, of course, they weren't expecting it, or some were, some weren't. Some were actually relatively cured. They didn't feel hardly anything, or they felt stuff, but it wasn't bad. They released the demons, and then they regulated again. And so, yeah, so the climate change is like a low-frequency infrasound resulting in high blood pressure and low blood pressure. And you are observing some people in disease, and people are continuously treating their diseases. So people are fainting. That means you have low blood pressure from the low frequencies. It's continuously lowering your blood pressure. Or what I feel is when the frequency is passing through or whatever, is I feel the heart palpitation. So a higher blood pressure for a certain amount of time, like I did yesterday. And what did I do? Usually I just eat spaghetti. I ate spaghetti. That's why I'm up at 4 in the morning, because that's when I'm mostly active, is when it's basically still dark. But when the day comes and all the amplified particles and the sunshine, and it was raining yesterday too, I felt, and who knows, yeah, that rain was activated. I felt the higher blood pressure and my heart was beating, and I knew what to do. I knew I had to eat food, take a nap, and I did, and I pooped this morning and everything is great. I have absolutely no complaints. Okay, so low frequency sounds are just as deadly as high frequency sounds, but undetectable, aside from the tactile sensations and other symptoms like vomiting and bowel spasms. And you must respond to those symptoms intelligently, and resistance to symptoms with all meds develop future complications and died suddenly. So remember when that person shit so bad that she couldn't control it on that plane when she was up in the air? Can you imagine around April 8th, people are at home, let's say they're at home, they're not going out there, and maybe they don't have too much of the open-celled foam in their little room, whatever, and they're feeling these frequencies, and their kids are vomiting, they're vomiting, people are shitting their brains out because of the frequencies. That's why they want you at home, really. Not so much because, you're going to escape what's going to happen. No one's escaping what's going to happen. It's just the fact that it might be a public safety issue. Someone says, oh, it's just the light. I'm blocking anyone that wants to dispute my information. I don't care who you are. But it's not just about the light, the eclipse. It's about also infrasound frequency that are undetectable. That people don't, it's not like you're hearing what you heard on Leave the World Behind. That was more for presentation entertainment, because you can't entertain people with information with low frequencies that you can't hear because you wouldn't hear it. So the high frequency that you heard through Leave the World Behind was telling you that is, when you're doing this, is no different than when your heart's beating from a low frequency. So I know how to read the movies very well. And that's why I was watching it again last night when I was snoozing, and I caught some stuff that I missed before about sound frequency and all that stuff. But yeah, can you imagine what it's going to be like for people when they're throwing up? And that's why they want you at home, because either you die at home. I mean, I'm going to just be perfectly fucking honest. There's no reason to hold back now. Okay, so either die at home, throw up at home, have a heart attack and stroke at home, shit at home. You have food at home, rest at home. Maybe you have someone next to you that could do chest compressions if you are dealing with a heart attack or a stroke. If there's no communication, there's no first responder. So whoever's around you, next to you, is going to have to save you. If no one's around you and you're doing this by yourself, well, you better hope you can handle whatever's going on. And that's why I said, if you know that you have health issues, don't be home alone. But don't go into people's houses that you don't know and say, hey, can I hang out with you? No, because why should they be responsible for whatever's going on in your world? You have to you have 8 days, whatever it is, to set yourself up correctly in this. And if you have to go to work, fine. But if you know you have health issues, then don't be alone that day. Make sure you have somebody next to you, not someone that you can call, because there may not be phone lines. Actually have people next to you, and they may have to sit with you, and you guys sit with each other for however long, whatever is going on. You don't know if they're going to say shelter in place and there's no movement, and you don't know. And so assume that whoever's next to you is going to be with you for the duration of until everything gets back online and society is back to normal, like whatever that means. Okay? And so you must respond to those symptoms intelligently, and resistance to symptoms will, with all meds, develops future complications and die suddenly. And so I said, just think of high frequency, low frequency is like high blood pressure, low blood pressure. Staying consistent in those two zones are deadly and have symptoms of disease when not regulated. So I used to have extremely low blood pressure because I was low sodium diets, low everything diet, gluten-free everything. Oh, drinking alcohol too, right? And so I used to have extremely low blood pressure, and even though high blood pressure is what most people fear, low blood pressure was never optimal either. Low blood pressure or hypotension can cause a number of complications, including falls. How many people have fallen out there? Okay? Dizziness and fainting can lead to falls, which can cause injuries like broken bones or concussions. When you see people that are dying in our car accidents, dying in a motorcycle accident, well, since they're not going to go to the autopsy and report that, they'll say, hey, this person died in a car accident or in a motorcycle accident, but they probably had low blood pressure, hypotension, dizziness, fainting, and it leads to car crashes, motorcycle crashes. It leads to falling off things, making bad choices. And when I was in that store the other day, Walmart, I felt, and luckily I was strong enough, I could work through it. I had enough self-control to work through whatever I was feeling that day. But someone who was less than what I was, someone who hasn't been conditioned for feeling faint and vertigo and all the things, dizziness, they would just do things just like a zombie and maybe push the wrong button or faint for a second and fall out of consciousness for a second, and all of a sudden they wake up and the machine's right over them. I mean, you don't know how this shit's going to affect you and when it's going to affect you. So when blood pressure is low, the organs receive less blood, which can lead to shock. Symptoms of shock includes confusion, cold skin, rapid breathing, and a weak pulse. If you have symptoms of shock, call 911 immediately. But hey, when the eclipse happens and there is no phone lines, I don't know what you do with someone with low blood pressure. Heart problems. Low blood pressure can cause the heart, faster or harder, which can lead to heart failure, stroke, deep vein thrombosis, brain damage. Sudden drops in blood pressure can starve the body of oxygen, damaging the brain. So when I was feeling the headaches the other day, the pressure headaches, I haven't woken up with a headache in a long time, but it's because we were in a new atmosphere. And then feeling the dizziness going to the store and all that stuff. And I'm just going like, oh my God, this of all days, I'd be feeling this way when I have to take care of this, and this. And so, I don't know, man. And so the fact that I was feeling the pressure headache says that I'm still alive. And I drank coffee, because I usually drink coffee like espresso, and it helped regulate the amount of blood that was rushing through my brain at the time. Okay? Not that I was using it to do that, but I drink coffee all the time. I drink espresso all the time with milk. But again, coffee can either cause someone to have a headache because they have to push through stuff, or coffee can cure a headache, or relative to which side of the spectrum you stand on when you have so much blood come through. So yeah, I mean, sudden drops in blood pressure can starve the body of oxygen, damaging the brain. And that's those who are on low sodium diets. Jeez. The people that scare people away from the salt and all that stuff, I'm not saying doing so much salt to cure yourself, because that still is not good. But the fact that the system really scared people away from salt really fucked people up. But what are you going to do? No matter what, you have too much high blood pressure, low blood pressure, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with it and regulate and deal with feeling what you have to feel. And knowing how to manage that without trying to resist it. So when I had the low blood pressure, feeling dizzy and feeling whatever I was feeling, sweating, rapid breathing, and that's the thing, what I was feeling was the rapid breathing. Symptoms of shock include confusion, cold skin, rapid breathing, weak pulse. It didn't say sweat, but I'm sure sweat is part of that. But yeah, I was feeling that stuff in the Walmart when I was shopping. And then when we went to Taco Bell, I was just mashing a quesadilla. Okay? So expect that to happen on April 8th and thereafter if you hadn't felt anything at all up to that point. Okay? And so, I don't know, man. It's crazy. And so I said Africa is what is setting the barometer of the biological and physiological strength, and they are already online working on intellectual capacity and strength. Because I'm watching some of these African influencers who are leading their followers into reading Western books, reading books to expand their capacity and expand their intellectual capability and expand the left and the right regions of their brain so they can compete with the rest of the world and build an amazing society. And they'll go through their own bullshit of trying to figure out sexuality and the roles of men and women and all of that. So yeah, they'll go through their own stuff in Africa. And so, and I'm seeing what they're doing online, trying to copy the West with some of the religions. They had some guy in one of the African countries, like, have a cross, and they put rags around the person's arm, on the arms of the cross, and they copied the crucifixion without actually nailing the person to the cross. So it was interesting. So when you think about April 8th, those frequencies are what goes on in Africa. We are getting sort of an African climate when you think about it, which I already knew, because global warming and climate change is like taking a climate like a place like Africa and bringing it to places that people are not used to and forcing them to adapt, bringing them up to a level. If they can't bring themselves up to that level, then they die suddenly or they treat themselves to death. Okay? Obviously, you know what you can handle and you know how aggressive it's been. Not everybody. Again, I'm still floored that people in California who weighed just as much as I did back then, not feeling a damn thing, they're traveling. So they're staying to the west of the Mississippi. So I watch people who are like me, skinny and hot and whatever, right? About my age, maybe a few years older. They're traveling to Arizona or New Mexico. They're traveling to different places, but staying mostly in the West. That aren't getting like what we're getting probably over here in the Midwest. I'm like, why aren't they getting sick? Why aren't they? Yeah. And why are people in Washington? Why aren't they getting sick in Washington? I'm watching people on my Facebook in Washington. They feel freaking nothing. I'm like, how is that even possible? And it makes you question your sanity. Like, whoa, am I full of disease? Am I full of cancer? And no, it's the infrasound is different in places. It is. Oh, it is. My gut knows it is. Because I'm not that different than those in Washington, in California, in Arizona. Because I remember how hot it was in Arizona, but I wasn't getting disease. I lived in Arizona for a minute. My husband and I were we were going to truck school, right? And, when he was on the truck for the few months before we were on the truck together, I was staying at a trainer's house with his wife for a minute. And it was hot. It was flipping. I don't want to ever live in Arizona. It's so hot. Like the heat just sucks the life out of you. But I wasn't getting crazy sickness. But why over here in Ohio, and it's not even that, it's hot, but it's not even that hot. It's like a wet heat over here, right? Well, wet heat, activated particles. But it's been a little bit drier than usual because they're having climate change here. But it's still, we get the storms, that's activated particles. Yesterday I felt it when the rain came through, activated particles. So I'm just like flipping out. Why are these skinny chicks, hot chicks, getting sick like I was getting sick over there? But they're cured over there, right? But they're getting, there's some areas like in Southern California getting tornado season, Central California. But Northern California, Southern, well, they're cured. When you think about it, they're not getting sick because they're cured. But remember, being cured is deadly in a dynamic environment because it just takes one flip of the switch and a nice EMP blast, and then the temperature drops and rises really quickly. People don't survive that. It's always a gradual change in climate is what was causing people to figure out or to deal with the low blood pressure and the high blood pressure and whatever that entails. All right, so as you can see, some native Africans are not even surviving climate change, but a lot are. I haven't seen too many died suddenly records of people actually in Africa. There's things in like New Guinea and other places, India. But yeah. And so anyways, if you see, as you can see, some native Africans are not even surviving climate change. Some are, but at least a lot are because they are already they are already extremely strong and resilient. But you see a lot of the neighboring countries and Caucasians having issues with assimilation. That's called died suddenly, which is why I have a concern with both coasts here in the U.S., especially California during the eclipse, even the United Kingdom. Okay, the United Kingdom has a bunch of people who are hanging by a string. It just takes a flip of the switch and bam, lay people out flat. And so I'm from California, though from Vietnam, and I have been so sick the last 3 years, but I have pulled through every single time. And I've yet to see anybody in California that I know say anything about sickness in their world. And they're traveling around like nothing's going on. So they're so skinny, they're not feeling anything under the influence, potentially even, cannabis and gluten-free everything. Or they are a bigger person and they do travel around, they get sick, but it's just a cold to them. And so they go into the hospital or go get treated for it, and then everything is great. And so that's suspicious to me. That is so suspicious to me. And they're not healthier than me, because that's all relative. What is healthier when you think about it? Being asymptomatic is healthier? Not necessarily. Some people are asymptomatic, die suddenly, like, oh, this guy was perfectly healthy. Was he? Or he was so cured, he didn't have any indicators that let him know what he needed to do to save himself when something changed. So when the climate changed and it wasn't really that aggressive, they didn't have what it takes to deal with the climate change, so much resistance, it caused then a heart attack or a stroke that they couldn't pull through from. The fact the person gets cancer, disease, and chronic illness and still alive after a heart attack says that they have a chance to redirect and live another day. But when you don't feel anything, feel nothing, and you're out there gallivanting like nothing's going on, and one day the climate changes more than you expected, though you're getting a warning now, at least 8 days before something happens. Yeah, people don't survive literal climate change, even a slight change in the barometric pressure, which is why I'm so concerned for April 8th. And so are they being set up for the Great Fall? Is Washington people being set up for the Great Fall? People in Idaho, people in all the western states, are they being, even in Arizona, Nevada, are they being set up for the Great Fall? Because California is about yoga, organic. Now I'm obviously drawing really aggressive broad strokes. But are they being set up for the great fall? Because California is about yoga and organic food and gluten-free everything. Everything that I know will work against anyone under aggressive frequency infrasound. So many weak people in California and all over the world. Yeah, I'm very concerned. Okay? So someone like Jillian, who was skinny and hot way back in the 1990s, still maintained a little bit of hotness even in her mid-40s, was able to snag a man, right? And work with him and develop a united front to survive, and then also help compensate for each other's shortcomings to help each other survive. Okay, I'm feeling everything the last 3 years. He feels hardly anything. I'm concerned, why isn't anyone in my world in California feeling anything? They may have buried somebody who was 80 or 90 years old, 80 years old, so, but that was expected. People die in their 80s, nowadays and even before. And so, but why aren't they feeling shit? Why are they traveling around, going places as if nothing is going on? It trips me the fuck out. I'm not special. But again, we're not all competing on a level playing field, but eventually we will. But right now, the last 3 years, we haven't. Because again, everyone's under vast amounts of experimentation. The world is ruled by scientists. And so the key to surviving everyone around you is managing expectations. And so you will always be in defense of your government. You will always defend yourself around your government. Okay, what does that mean? Well, they're going to say, hey, there's going to be so many things that they'll recommend, give you options for, even warn you. Just like Dr. Phil, hey, warn jelly juice, watch out for jelly juice. She will activate your immune system. You may not be able to handle it. Okay, I get it. But they're always going to give you so many choices. So many choices. All right? And so, because they are the ultimate regulators, they will always give you a choice to make or make recommendations or even mandates. And you have to know and discern between the two and make a choice for yourself. But you have to manage the expectations of everyone around you and who you interact with. And that might change daily based upon how you synthesize information coming from the outside. So we have people who are in homogenized families and friends and circles and groups and whatever. And then maybe one out of maybe there's 10 of you, one person holy shit, they see the writing on the wall. They actually synthesized information from my stuff, saw all the evidence in their world, realized stuff, put stuff together finally, and they're around people who expect them to go hang out and go party and go do this and go do that. How are you going to how are you going to save yourself? But even then, if you did not go to whatever it is that people are doing, and you stayed home, then what are you going to do when you stay home? Do you even know what to expect when you think about, well, if you've already survived thus far, and you're in Ohio, and if you stayed home, maybe put a few little, open-celled foams around a room that you're going to be in to ride out the eclipse, you might buy yourself some time and then deal with disease and vomiting and whatever else and finally change your lifestyle. So you might actually buy yourself time versus someone out there around so many people getting maybe extreme aggressive things. Maybe those that are at home will get less because they're not in the crowds that the system is going oh, we have volunteers for mass human sacrifice. If you stay home, okay, maybe you will still get the frequencies, but they won't be as aggressive as those that are going to be hanging out with their church groups in the crowds. They're all, and that's the thing. And so you're going to have to trust science. Literally, you're going to have to trust science. And so you have to manage expectations of everyone around you and who you interact with. And that might change daily based on how you synthesize information coming from the outside. And then when you don't go with your friends or family to whatever, and you stay home, and all of a sudden you're going to Home Depot and buying those open-celled foam things to go in line, or whatever. People are like, oh God, here we go. And they say, oh, who have you been listening to? Why are you doing that? That's a little weird. You might have a mental issue. Should we take you and get you diagnosed and get you committed because you're lining your house or lining your room with egg foam open-celled things to absorb infrasound? I mean, I don't know. See, and that some people are just like, you know what, Simon Worth, I don't even care. And they won't even, yeah. And that's, that's why I can only just be like, I can only laugh because I know I can only laugh. So if you understand the rule of law is what will govern the conduct of nations, if you didn't understand why these rules exist, you will later on, way later on, and it will save your life. So I didn't know why rules existed back when my mom was doing her stuff. And I didn't even know why the rules existed as far as recommendations, like wear a mask, stay home, stay safe, 6 feet apart. Now I get it. But that wasn't the only thing. It wasn't just the microbes that you were exposed to from other people. It was also the infrasound frequencies that were causing people's microbes to come to surface. And so that was the other thing. So even when I was home, hardly really near anyone, but my husband come home, and they could say that, yeah, he brought home microbes, but it was also the infrasound that was waking up my demons that I had to deal with. And then if a person didn't know any better, they would blame anyone that came around, and they wouldn't be, incorrect, because everyone holds a certain frequency that would activate someone else's immune system. And if they were releasing demons and their ectoplasm was really influential and infectious, yeah, you would have to go and assimilate to that, and that would be like a disease type of thing, coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, and feeling whatever. And so, somebody did not like this post, and they were resisting me that yesterday. And they were trying to be polite about it, but I knew that they were trying to slam me for this post. Okay, what did they say in response to this? I'll say what they said. I mean, I don't have it all memorized, but to the gist of, well, why would you say this? Why don't you just do what you do? Why dwell on this? Why make a point in saying this? So what is this? April 8th, make sure you have an eclipse buddy in your house who knows chest compressions and have food, water, and fuel available to you. Drawing out your neighbors who do not want to be exposed to the solar eclipse is selfish. Do not do that to me or my husband. This is me saying this to everyone on my Facebook. Like, seriously. If my husband must answer the door to anyone, I will immediately cut you out of my life, and you will not be welcome anywhere near me. Wow, that's some harsh shit, Jillian. You have 10 days to prepare. I do not want to be forced to deal with frequencies, and please do not manipulate my husband into helping you. And so I said, prepare, prepare, prepare. There will be 3 atmospherical explosions that will reverberate. Stay home, shelter in place. I'm very serious. We are not first responders. I'm not responsible for your lifestyle and your food and shelter and air. There's nothing I can do to help with anything. Plan accordingly. Do not depend on anyone but your family. And if you have no friends, you need to depend upon yourself, or go to your work, or go be around people that you relatively trust. Okay, and that's the thing. Those who have been living on their own, living off of Facebook, getting the social interaction, which is great. Do you have anyone that's within walking distance that you guys could hang out together and ride out this storm of tsunamic infranados until everything is back online? Because assume everything will go offline. Just assume the worst. Okay? I can't save anyone, nor will I. So I am choosing to stay home, but that does not mean it's a social call. I don't want to be around anyone except for my husband, and that's it. And so if you're at home and you don't go to the events, and you're at home and you have neighbors that know what's going on, don't leave your house. Stay shelter in place. The reason why you didn't go to the social events because you don't want to be exposed to so much crap. And you might be better off in your house but then there's another layer of that, which you can put all those different foam things to help absorb the frequencies if you even understand that side of it. But at least when you're at home, you're not subject to somebody else running you over because they fainted behind the wheel or something. And so, don't leave your house. Once you leave your house, you're exposed to whatever and subject to whatever. And what are you going to do? Go and what? Commiserate with somebody else and say, oh gosh, the government, they're turning off all the electricity and and everyone's around hanging out. No, And they're like, oh yeah, I have this, I have that. And everyone's like trying to pull. No. I'm choosing to stay home. But that does not mean it's a social call. I do not want to be around anyone except for my husband, and that's it. If you think I'm overreacting, try me, and I'm serious. I'm not messing around. My husband may not see danger for what it is because he hasn't felt anything. He's Ohioing like pure Ohioan, built like a brick shit house, alpha male. People he hangs out with, alpha males, they don't feel anything. They're huge. Even some of the women are huge. They don't feel shit. Maybe they're under the influence. Cannabis, so they don't feel anything. But I do, and I'm giving everyone fair warning about what I expect from the people who like me and respect me. Okay, or him, you know? I'm giving you a chance to be self-sufficient and accountable for your actions without taking somebody down with you. No matter what, I cannot even save you. I can never save you, even if you were next to me. I don't do chest compressions unless I absolutely have to for my husband. Save yourself or be around family or coworkers, not acquaintances. Okay, so a person had an issue with that. And so I said to them, but I responded, but I deleted them because I'm not done with that. If you truly don't want people to suffer, give them a choice. People think this is harsh. Oh, honey, you don't know what harsh is. You have yet to see what harsh really is. Harsh is learning the hard way. Somebody said, why dwell on this and just do what I do? And just do what I do. Okay, what's the point of saying that? Why tell me why dwell on it? It's like saying, hey, don't be afraid. It's like you're trying to remove someone's immune system. You're trying to shut somebody up because you don't want to hear somebody putting down boundaries. Okay? I like giving people the heads up before I do what I do. I don't live in a vacuum. I'm surrounded by people with unsaid expectations and assumptions. I'm just making sure I'm clear. See, I warn people not because that you don't have to prepare and you can come to me and take my stuff. See, remember in Leave the World Behind and Kevin Bacon, his character, when those two guys, the three guys, Archie and Ethan Hawke and the other dude, I forget his name, they were looking for supplies and medicines, and Kevin Bacon was saying, "Why I prepared for this? Why didn't you prepare for this? Why should I be responsible for you?" That right there was right there telling you that there would be people, the zombies, are going to be searching people to help them, and they never prepared. They were too busy out there gallivanting, not listening to indicators, completely oblivious. And then when the shit hits the fan in their world, then they expect people around them to help them. Why should those people who prepared for it, knew what to prepare for, why should they be held responsible and then take from their resources to help you? It's like, oh, I overdrew on my account, knowing fully well they didn't have enough money, and then they're asking someone to borrow money to help cover what they overdrew on. Why is that somebody else's responsibility? What? Why? And there are people like that. They're in your family, they're your friends, some of your neighbors, co-workers. And so I'm surrounded by people with unsaid expectations and assumptions. Someone's going to save them when the shit hits the fan in their world. I'm just making sure I'm clear. No matter how you go about looking at what's going to happen next week, it's going to be a suffering either way. I'm just trying to lessen the amount of suffering I may have to deal with, and I can't control you. But I can be clear on the boundaries around this certain type of situation. People who lack certain boundaries have an issue with clear communication. They hate it when someone puts down boundaries and vocalizes them. And history is always the indicator around behaviors. If you don't tell people to prepare in your world, can you imagine how much more suffering they will have to deal with when they are caught unaware? It's our duty to give people some kind of information. But if we don't understand what preparation is ourselves, then we give no information to people, and it will be the blind leading the blind. And that's those who are gathering out there during the eclipse. Since I'm aware of how dangerous next week is going to be, it's my duty to give people the option and to lessen my own suffering and guilt for keeping valuable information to myself. Okay? I don't expect you to listen to me. I don't expect you to even fucking believe me. But at least you have the choice. But when someone has a dispute with my information here, chances are they're the ones that want someone to pick up the pieces when they haven't planned for anything. They expect people to fill in their gaps. Well, those days are over. And so I said, tsunamic infranados are like tsunamis. Just like the water waves, tsunamis begin to lose energy as they rush onshore. Part of the wave energy is reflected offshore, while the shoreward propagating wave energy is dissipated through bottom friction and turbulence. Despite these losses, tsunamis still reach the coast with tremendous amount of energy. Only the military can block and stop infrasound. So I said tsunamic, infranados are like tsunamis. Only the military can block and stop infrasound. You can lessen the exposure, but you can't block it altogether. That's why there's buildings somewhere in places like in cities that have no windows. It's like fully reinforced. I think I saw that on Facebook. And there's no doors that you can see, but it's just a one large building that's probably so reinforced that it will block any kind of infrasound. And so key people, key government officials and those of the like will probably congregate in those type of buildings, whether they're above ground or below ground, while the frequencies are going on. And since I've already been conditioned for the frequencies, I'm expecting to throw up and shit and whatever and feel faint and dizzy and like euphoric. And I'll still be able to handle it because I have food and water and a toilet. Others who are not expecting that, that's what I'm like most afraid of. And so only the military can block and stop infrasound. You can do the best you can to lessen your exposure by behavioral changes. Okay, so that's why I said find the lowest point in your house. If you don't have the lowest point in your house, then if you're one of those like in Hollywood that has a soundproof room, go in there. If you're one of those that have money and can find somewhere in your house where you can kind of line it and the windows with the open celled foam, okay, that can absorb the sound, and maybe that's your bathroom, so you can have, I don't know. I mean, how are you going to go to the restroom? You have 3 hours. Maybe you have to take a shit. That's the thing, is that how much do those foams really block? And when you think about it, it might lessen, but you still get exposed to it, might lessen. But if you're not, but even everything's relative. If you've never really been conditioned for infrasound, and even putting up those foam things doesn't exactly completely 100% block it, so you're still getting some. And if you haven't been conditioned for even a little bit, then even that little bit could be catastrophic. So it just depends on your body type, what you've been conditioned for, what you're prepared for. I mean, but those in the J world that have been following my information and you've already been somewhat conditioned for this, you'll know what to expect and to do everything you can to lessen the amount of reaction that your body have when that happens. And so Flexi says infrasound or low frequency sound can be blocked or reduced using noise canceling technology, soundproofing materials, or barriers. These methods work by either absorbing the sound waves, reflecting them, or creating destructive interference. And so what's going on is a type of synchronized chaos. All outcomes are the intention. So I was remembering last night what I posted a few weeks ago or a week ago about the chaos theory and the butterfly flapping its wings over here on this side of the coast, and that it will actually cause a chain reaction and storms and things like that happen on this side of the coast. So think of the chaos theory. Yes, everything is connected, but it's the rate of influence that causes then some catastrophic things that would cause a wave energy action of building on itself, accumulating aggressive intensity as it goes through the atmosphere. And so that's why you're seeing so many chemtrail, contrail, water vapors. It's because that is going to make the atmosphere so thick and activated that when they do whatever they do, everyone will be affected equally. And so you either have to be down below in the basement, or if you're high up and you can't get anywhere but where you are because you have no access to anything because you're a lone rich person living in the ivory tower, then you better get some foam stuff and try to block it as much as you can. But at this point, it's probably too late for a lot. And so we're in a synchronized chaos. It's like there's always a catalyst. So, and I saw why it was necessary. So synchronized chaos is all outcomes are the intention. All death and disease is synchronized chaos. There's nothing random in the universe. There is an organization. even to chaos. Synchronized chaos is a science because catalysts must be involved. It is choreography, like a dance team. You don't live in a vacuum, and you aren't the first person on this earth, okay? Synchronization of chaos is a phenomena that may occur when two or more dissipative chaotic systems are coupled. Two or more. So you think about the rockets, the CERN, the contrails and chemtrails, okay? All those are synchronized chaos is a phenomenon that may occur when two or more dissipative chaotic systems are coupled. Two or more dissipative. What do you mean dissipative? Dissipative means relating to dissipation, which is a process of gradually losing energy or disappearing. For example, a wave that loses amplitude is said to dissipate. But that's when it reaches the people. So when a person has all this energy, right, has enough energy, has stuff, and they get hit with frequencies, all types, okay, then they gradually lose energy. It's either it's like it dies suddenly, or they get cancer disease and chronic illness, or they get low blood pressure, causing then symptoms. Because of the exponential divergence of the nearby trajectories of chaotic systems, having two chaotic systems evolving in synchrony might appear surprising. However, synchronization of coupled or driven chaotic oscillators is a phenomenon well established experimentally and reasonably well understood theoretically. April 8th is going to be a synchronized chaos. And it'll have an immediate effect, which is why they are projecting that there'll be a lot more accidents. And there'll be a delayed effect, which is then disease X. The stability of synchronization for coupled systems can be analyzed using master stability. Synchronization of chaos is a rich phenomenon and a multidisciplinary subject with a broad range of applications. Synchronization may present a variety of forms depending on the nature of the interacting systems and the type of coupling and the proximity between the systems. Proximity. So you have CERN, you have the three rockets, you have the contrails and the chemtrails, you have the eclipse. Oh, it's a recipe for so much disaster. And so the chaos theory is an interdisciplinary area of scientific study and branch of mathematics focused on underlying patterns and deterministic laws of dynamical systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions and were once thought to have completely random states of disorder and irregularities. Chaos theory states that within the apparent randomness of chaotic complex systems, there are underlying patterns, interconnection, constant feedback loops, repetition, self-similarity, fractals, and self-organization. The butterfly effect, an underlying principle of chaos, describes how a small change in one state of deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in later states, meaning that there is sensitive dependence on initial conditions. A metaphor for this behavior is that butterfly flapping its wings in Texas can cause tornadoes in Brazil. So what do you think is going to happen when we are under that type of tsunamic infranado, when those three explosions, one beginning at those experiments that NASA's doing, at the beginning of the eclipse, at the middle of it, and then at the end of it. And it's going to be longitudinal, right? Because that's the whole eclipse is going to have that 115 mile of totality that people are going to be all congregating and going and looking at, right? All mesmerized. And then you have those explosions that'll happen then latitudinal, east and west. And so it'll spider out, and of course all the chemtrails and the water vapors and everything else, contrails, water vapor, reflective particles, amplifying the sun, amplifying a lot of things, then spider out, and then the wave of energy. And then of course that wave of energy, like the wave formula, builds up steam, builds up acceleration, just like tsunamis. And then it hits. See, when it hits buildings, it gets reflected. But when it hits biodiversity, how well are you reinforced? That's what you're dealing with. Unless you put yourself between, like with tornadoes, you have a lot of barriers between you and the energy. So when you're in the basement with around, stone and brick or something, and then you also have those noise canceling, open celled foam things, you might lessen the effects, might lessen the exposure. But if you're out there, looking like everybody else, watching everything, yeah, forget it. But even then, even those are not even the path of totality. can you just imagine those in California who are not expecting anything? They're all like, oh yeah, look at me. I'm over here, selfies, and look, I'm over here, and then all of a sudden the wave hits them, and just like what happened in China, wave action. The weak are going to be laid out. So that's why I did that picture of the AI picture of the wave action. Well, now I know why most people don't understand where I'm biophysically coming from. According to the National Toxicology Program, there is no agreement on the biological activity of infrasound. However, some reported effects including inner ear effects, vertigo, imbalance, intolerable sensations, incapacitation, disorientation, nausea, vomiting, bowel spasm, and resonance in inner organs. So you can imagine what people are going to feel like when they're at home or out there in their cars or out there in their viewing areas, right? What they're going to be feeling. And died suddenly. So incapacitation is like died suddenly too. I mean, when I had that arm pain the other day, in the midst of all of this infrasound frequency change and whatever, and I couldn't even barely move, it was like, and even the range, like right now, it's still a bit sore just like from that, but it's still a range of motion that I can do. But I remember even just my arm was almost frozen. It was almost frozen, but I still worked through it. I had enough force to work through it and do what I had to do. And so the Midwest was intended to get the stronger infrasound, of course, used as a tool and a barometer. Okay? Men and women here are built like brick shithouses. So it's the perfect place to test sound energy and how it affects a very robust population. And I'm from California. Okay? So even though people may not feel major stuff, they're aging aggressively here. 30-year-olds are looking like my age. It's almost as if now, baby boomers and Gen X and millennials are all looking like they're baby boomers. Okay, so holy shit, did I feel stuff? April 8th, NASA, 3 rockets, CERN, chemtrails. The weaker people are further away, the 2 coasts and beyond, but they will be affected at some point as the energy rings makes its way out beyond the epicenter, picking up speed. Okay, so there's misconceptions about what will happen April 8th. They're saying, oh, it's a biological attack. It's a chemical attack. Hey, that's probably true. If they can prove that and there's that going on, it's not true. But then there's other things that you have to be aware of. Okay? So that guy, JWTV, was being fed information that there may be misinformation, but may not. It may be actually true. But, okay. That's why you have to be very careful when you're being fed information from some insider. You could be getting wrong information or information that would then distract you from the other information, okay? Forcing you on wild goose chases and speculating and even distracted from the situation. And so it'd be easier if everyone thought it was radiation, biological attack. You would think that further away you are, the better off you'll be. So that is so as I said, think again, Einstein. Even though you're right, the inverse square law supports that. But remember, that's not the only thing you're dealing with. So the inverse square law that says that is the further away you are, the less affected you are because it's proportional to the square of the distance. So proportional to the square of the distance. Now, I copied that model, that formula a few years ago, trying to understand it from a visual perspective, not so much like an actual plugging in the numbers and developing an actual equation that would elicit some kind of specific answer that would... No, it's the concept that I wanted to understand. Because I was applying that to the pandemic. When you're around people, the further away you are from them, the less you'll be affected. But remember, you're holding things inside that are getting activated. And unless you release those demons, you're right next to the poisons, right? Unless you release the demons and you build up your body and all that stuff. And so the inverse square law is correct there. But so the proportional to the square of the distance means that as the distance between 2 objects increases, the value of the thing being measured decreases and vice versa. Okay? And so there's equations with that. However, no one has even thought about wave speed formula. And so CERN, 3 rockets, chemtrails, what is the formula for a tsunami? Wave speed formula. Speed of the tsunami, meters, seconds, equal to the square root of g, or acceleration due to gravity, which is constant, 9.81 meters per second, times the water depth, at which the disturbance occurs, meters. So your atmosphere is basically plasma, thick, soupy plasma. When those waves of energy pick up speed, making its way across the globe, you can only imagine that wave action will lay down so many different people. So you think the jet stream, you think of all the soupy contrail, chemtrail, water vapor. So chemtrails equals thick, soupy, plasmic water vapors with activated reflective nanoparticles. Okay? That's the thing. That's the infranado. Infra is Latin word means below or below this point. It is used as a prefix in information of compound words such as infrasonic, infrared. And so it's below detectability. That's why people are like, I don't understand what you're talking about, Jillian, when they're under the influence or remove their indicators of anything. They don't want to feel symptoms. But the people in the J world that hear the drops in pressure, they hear the ring in their ears when things happen. Every single time I feel like I'm in a soundproof room for a second because there's a change in the pressure, and then I know that I start feeling the activated immune system. I start feeling my heart go up and down. But I've been conditioning for that for the last 3 years. Okay? So you can read that. And so Bacon's, this is in Leave the World Behind. Bacon's character surmises that the sound came from microwave radiation weapon, causing one of the characters to vomit violently and his teeth to fall out. Now, that sound doesn't mean that you're going to hear that. It's just going to be an undetectable infrasound. So even though you can actually hear it in the movie, because you have to, because silence doesn't really offer anything for people to grab onto, so they had to show you what the sound was that would cause then vomiting and teeth to fall out. Not saying that loud sounds couldn't do that, but when you go to a concert, people get heart attacks, yes, and they have the last few years. But do you see people throwing up at concerts? No. But they're not, maybe it's not the decibel and the frequency range that maybe was on the movie, but even then. So that's what they were trying to show you, that the other side of it, the silent, undetectable infrasound, is what's going to cause then vomiting and teeth to fall out. Okay? And so Canada's Niagara region declares state of emergency as 1 million total solar eclipse watchers predicted. Holy shit. Canada's going to go through their own bullshit. So I'm saying from Mexico all the way to Canada, and then you have all those explosions happening. I would say an explosion here, and an explosion over here, and it's going to go east-west, 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 and it's going to be upper atmosphere, lower atmosphere, and circling the globe. So no matter what, if you stay home during the eclipse, unless you go into a soundproof room or the basement that's relatively soundproof, and you're pretty strong and hardy, you might be able to survive. Those who are hardy and are outside, you might survive. Those who are hardy and inside in a soundproof room, you might survive. If you're already compromised, it won't matter what you do, if you stay home or be outside. The system would rather you be at home, so that way you're one less body to pick up in public, and you won't run anyone over if you're behind the wheel, if you die behind the wheel. It's called public safety. They can't control you. They don't know what you're dealing with. They can't save you. And then now, of course, families in Ohio have been breathing vinyl chloride for months. The EPA is finally beginning to review the chemical, but a verdict will take 3 years. So then when Disease X comes around, and then they finally say, oh yeah, you're breathing in such bad amounts of this. So then when Disease X comes around because of April 8th and all that, then you have the vinyl chloride to go and blame. You have the V's to go and blame. You have whatever chemical warfare attack, whatever they say, on April 8th to go and blame. Oh gosh, you will have plenty of scapegoats to go and give you absolution for why it is your friends and family dropped like flies and why you passed away or why you have disease. Timed perfectly, another scapegoat. Okay. And so again, IFL Science, which is interesting. So IFL Science says potentially fatal consequences linked to upcoming total solar eclipse, but then their actual article, which flipped me out for a minute, because I'm like, why are you doing this? Was talking about something to do with barbecue, but I don't know what the hell, something to do with microbes. But when you actually read the article and then you go to the other links, the actual specific link that you should be reading is potential fatal consequences linked to upcoming solar eclipse, which is then the influx of people and traffic and then more accidents. Now, that's how they're going to explain it, because statistically that's probably true, but we've had that before in venues, again, that are crowded and had a prepared amount of people coming through for a concert like Taylor Swift or whatever. But for some reason, this eclipse thing is going to be causing accidents that they have to keep warning you about. So whatever. All right. And so if you're listening to me and you think that you can be in my world during the situation, nope, you can't. Maybe it's time you have the hard conversation with the people you surround yourself with. Maybe it's time to develop my world in your world without using me. Maybe it's time to stand up to your friends and family who are in major denial. Or you just disappear somewhere to a safe place and don't tell them where you're going and why, because you'll suffer ridicule from your friends and family. You will suffer ridicule. Okay? Imagine those in the J world suffering ridicule from their friends and family when they're trying to do something. So you can only imagine when you're like, I'm not watching that eclipse. I'm not watching anything. I'm going to go over here and sit in the basement in my soundproof room because I'm a DJ or, I don't know, a music artist. All right? And so don't tell anyone where you're going if that's what you have to deal with. So 3 hours of the planet subjected to 3 major accelerated infrasound frequencies amplified by CERN and contrails. And you know how many views? This is so interesting. I had 298 post impressions on that specific post. 290 post reach. Engagement of 112. I don't even know what that means, but it means that right there resonated with somebody. And then not only April 8th, but then also hurricane season. One must worry about too. And I said, you have 10 days to get your billionaire bunker on a budget against infrasound bomb ready. Okay? And so billionaire bunkers were not just for asteroids or nuclear war. They were and are for reinforced buildings. They are reinforced buildings above ground or below ground for planned frequency events those in denial have no awareness of. So those are like, oh, I'm going to go out there and watch the eclipse. And I'm in the basement. And I'm at home. And I don't want anyone messing with my husband or me. And I'm going to let my husband know exactly. If you want to be out in the regular room, fine. I'm not worried about that. You don't have to sit in the bathroom with me. But I'm telling you, anyone knocks on the door, I hope they don't. I literally hope they don't. Because, I don't know. That's what I'm most concerned about, are my neighbors who don't understand what's going on. And they need to go and commiserate with someone. No, you need to stay home and stay safe. Don't put it on my husband or me if you happen to fall over on our property because you fainted. If you hate me for instilling the reality of fear into you, I'm doing what your parents should have done, and they failed. Too many are over the rainbow. They don't think danger exists anywhere in their world. So they'll walk into danger and sit in danger, completely oblivious. Well, thank you for your service. Oh my God, it just hit me. Those living in high-rise condos. You're like a cell tower, an antenna. Oh my God, you'll be hit with infrasound frequency more than those in the basement of your high-rise buildings. Oh, the mighty have fallen. Money or herbs will not save you. Glass houses with no basements. Oh my God, you're one big solarium and conductor for infrasound. How many rich people live in high-rise condos all over the world? It's a symbol of status, wealth, and capitalism to be so high up in your ivory tower. Physics-wise, you're closer to the ionosphere. I mean, even though it's like 300 miles up, but still. And upper atmosphere and closer to the waves of energy that will be happening during the eclipse. America will fall. So many in Asia in high-rise buildings. During a power outage and the elevator stopped working, you are stuck in your ivory tower. So think of those in the Trump towers, those in those condos, even here in Ohio. You can imagine those airplanes so high up, big cities will fall. The more grounded you are, the better off you'll be. Now I'm not talking about doing grounding by walking barefoot on the earth, okay? Don't even get that. Don't even mix up with that. Those working in high-rise office buildings in San Francisco, New York, LA, Chicago, no different than 9/11. Those in high-up buildings are in death traps during this great reset. Those with no basements and no major insulation and lack of awareness. Wow, the times are changing. I was thinking about Bob Dylan. Your money, power, wealth, and high-rise buildings will do nothing for you when it comes to infrasound frequency. The empires are over. I wouldn't be caught dead in a high-rise building or a high-rise condo. Not in Florida or anywhere else. And I know people are stuck. They're in them. Like, just think about Brooklyn and wherever else. And so the zombie apocalypse is when unprepared and in denial people knock on your door looking for you. And they're everywhere. I mean, everywhere. They're your neighbors if you don't warn them, your friends, your family, coworkers, and acquaintances. Okay? And I said, sizzle, sizzle, seizure. The eclipse will be like a moth to a flame. How many churches, like I said, zzz, how many churches have plans to watch the eclipse together? 144,000. How many family and friends will get together and ooh and ah while taking selfies before and during and maybe after? Longitudinal sound frequency disturbances activating the jet stream ionosphere. Thick, soupy contrail chemtrail plasma will reverberate across the globe. The fifth wave. The eclipse goes along with the longitude of the globe while the rockets penetrate the atmosphere like rings in a pond. A tsunami of energy from Mexico to Canada, north and south, while the tsunami of energy goes east and west, like a cross. Good luck. See the cross, now we're in Easter. The cross, the crucifixion of Jesus. And he died for everyone's sins, and then you see how the Rosicrucians have even implemented even that, the whole Easter side of it. There was never any way to escape infrasound and the system, no matter how far you ran or how many gardens you grew. There is, and was no escape. You'll either survive and suffer and live and redirect, or stay in resistance until another wave of energy takes you out. Or you get smart quick. And so tsunami of energy will circle the globe. Chemtrails equals plasma activated atmosphere. And I said you have 10 days to get your infrasound billionaire bunker on a budget made. And it's April 8th, it's triple-demic infrasound. That's what you're up against. And that's why I'm so concerned for those in California who haven't really felt anything, because it was just the heat and maybe a few tornadoes down south and maybe some floods. But we've had floods before. Why weren't people having issues? Because it wasn't as activated as the Midwest. See, we're the epicenter. Those down south, Mexico, will be the epicenter for April 8th. But lately, we have been the epicenter. I've been feeling some stuff, man. That's why I can't understand why those in California haven't been feeling anything. I'm like, dude, I have the same body type as you. Not the same. But I was all about organic way back when. And I was all about looking hot and sexy and gluten-free and sugar-free and salt-free and da-da-da and not, no fast food, no processed food, right? Starving myself, potentially even under the influence of cannabis in California, drinking, not so much drugs, smoking cigarettes every so often. And I've taken away all the addictions. I don't treat my disease. I'm sick like a fucking dog. My husband doesn't feel shit, and he smokes cigarettes every day. My husband's Superman. I swear. And so now I get it. They're not subjected to the same stuff, because if they were subjected to what we were subjected to, you'd see everybody in California be laid out flat. All the yoga people, the skinny hot chicks, all the influencers and all that stuff, people with cancer, disease, and chronic illness, though the 80-year-olds that are already dealing with things are dying off, but that's to be expected. No one's the wiser. So then I'm like, I know exactly. I know. April 8th is going to change so much stuff. I hope it doesn't happen, but why would the system do all these things? Why would NASA go and do all these experiments, knowing really fully well they've done enough experiments? I don't know why they would do it again, but whatever. Why did they do those experiments last eclipse? Oh, wait, is this eclipse a total eclipse that's going to even be more so? I don't know. There's always some kind of storyline behind it. And you don't know, again, what people knew and when they knew it. And everything's speculation. And no matter what, there'll always be an official story that will be written out. And no matter what, the people of the day, like even 20,000 years ago, people of the day had their speculation. And there was those who had the official story and their speculation. And then we look back on history, we don't know the speculation because they're not around anymore, but we only see the official story. And that's what's going to happen today. That's why I'll say what I say. It doesn't matter. That's why the system is allowing me to say what I'm saying, because 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 100 years down the road, everything that we're speculating will be gone. It'll be erased, deleted. And I'll be around, hopefully, but I know not to say anything more. I'll be 100 years from now, while people are dying and reproducing, short memories, subjected to whatever, and I'll just be sitting around going like, yeah. And I'll be very careful what I say. Or who knows? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to manage that in the future. But it doesn't even matter. We're dealing with today right now. And those that die today, it doesn't matter what the future holds, they're gone. Those that watch their friends and family die today, they're going to make a choice. Maybe they listen to my information, maybe they don't. Who knows? So, I just don't even... Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. So I always think the worst because I know the worst can happen and I will be prepared for it mentally, physically, intellectually. And so if it doesn't happen, great. But all signs leading to shit that I'm saying is going to fucking happen. And I've built a case for it. I've shown you the science. Good luck. Good luck.